told you long ago on the road, I got what they waiting for.
Instead of a Celsius crackling, you can learn with the crack open.
Is it a water straw?
Yeah.
Oh, hey.
We'll probably
Or you can do
Yeah, go.
You want me to slurp a little bit?
Oh, gosh.
I can't, I was trying to do, the cartoon slurp, but, it's hard. Wait.
I don't even know how to do that.
Was that good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, this is another episode of Between Two Green Chairs.
Call it its rightful name.
Purpose. I didn't take my Adderall today.
Oh.
Why would you do that?
Well, because I only have so many left before my next doctor's appointment.
Episode.
Maybe.
I think we should call it its rightful name, being as I am the name giver of it.
What is that?
I did come up with the name.
What?
Accidentally on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what it
yes.
is. We just
You
joke.
guys.
I was thinking, I was like, shop talk. That could have been a good one.
Shop talk?
Yeah, because
Shop
literally,
talk?
that's, we talk about that,
Shop, as in S-H-O-P?
yeah, that's, the beauty shop.
Oh!
Anyway,
Gotcha.
This is Maria.
Hey, guys.
She's a grandmother. If you don't know that, please go look up little girl who says she's 16 and a grandmother. I think her name's Ava Ryan.
She's 16. Sorry, I just got that.
I haven't said that in a while, actually.
Yeah, I'm really proud of you. Doing really good.
Anyway, so you can see we got actual podcast equipment, but it wouldn't be true Alex and Lexi fashion if something didn't go wrong. Because
I told her to stop saying that yesterday. Because I was like, be positive. I was like, positivity. Because she was like, of course something's going to go wrong. And I was like, well, it's just don't.
Don't think that.
Yeah.
Just don't.
Just don't. You know what? Just don't.
just
Wow, that's the perfect setup for this episode. Because what are
Honestly.
we talking about? Maria? What are we talking about?
Mental health. I was like, wait, are we going to say it together? Mental health. May was Mental Health Awareness Month. We just wrap that up.
It is the first day of June, but that's okay. We're going to wrap the
Yeah, we're
Mental
gonna-
Health Awareness Month up.
Yeah, and then this won't come out until the second week of June. So, coffee sponsored by Heroes Coffee, local to Northwest Arkansas.
Everyone tell your order.
So good. I got a half sweet
Ooh, she's healthy.
virgin mudslide.
I got an ice white chocolate mocha.
I got a half sweet hero.
That looks really good. I was looking at the website today.
Nice.
You want to try it, or would that gross you out?
Nah, I probably would gross me out.
You've definitely tried my drink before,
Uh-oh.
though.
Definitely have, and that is growth.
What?
I want to just make sure.
Still going?
So, yeah. That's
We're still going.
Yay!
We're still on air.
Yay.
Honestly, be prepared for something. I'm not saying anything's going to happen, but I'm just saying, this is the first real deal that we've done. I mean, we've had a couple trial runs, but, this is...
gonna be alright.
Okay. Anyway, we got professional equipment. My boom arm is already broke. And we got 2 identical microphones. And,
Did it stop?
no, it's going.
Oh.
We got 2 identical microphones, and of course, because they're identical, our computer doesn't recognize that there's 2 of them. So we had to use one of the old ones, which defeated the purpose of buying a new one, but we're using the old one with the new arm. And, yeah, so we'll see how this goes, but mental health.
Mental health.
I might not be as chatty today. I've realized, I've already had a cup of coffee, but hopefully by the time I get to the end of this
I
one,
got
I'm
more
like,
chatty, so.
You're like, I'm not really chatty today, and you're the one that's been talking the most.
Called out.
called out.
I think we should talk about how we met. How I came
Oh, yeah,
about.
yeah.
Oh,
Actually, you know what I do have? Notes.
Notes!
I do have
notes.
I forgot about that. I even had Lexi go and get it for me.
I did. Fat check
Okay.
for her.
So, how did we meet you?
Okay, so I live in Lexi's parents' neighborhood. So my mom and dad met Carla and Mike at the pool.
Mike G.
I actually met them too that day.
Oh.
And she was like talking about how you were a hairstylist, and her hair obviously looked so good. And I just moved here. I moved here from East Tennessee, and it was like 2020.
865.
That is my area code on my phone number. Fun fact. But I needed a hairstylist because I just moved here.
Hey, wait. How do you say your hometown?
Maryville.
How do you spell it?
Maryville. I also say Fayetteville,
It's
which
not.
is a big no-no around here.
Yeah, it's not.
Like, but I don't say Bentonville. Like,
That's
I say
weird.
like Bentonville, but it's like in Tennessee, it's like Knoxville, Sevierville, like Nashville.
Bull,
Well, I guess
VUL.
It's a whole different Southern accent, I feel
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, your client yesterday was really Southern. Like I was noticing, I was about to ask her where she was from. The younger one.
Oh,
She
yes.
sounded really Southern, and I was like,
Well, aren't they?
Yes.
Are they from? I feel like if you're from here, you sound a little bit more Southern. But if
They're
you like,
not... They've moved all over the place for her dad's job.
okay.
Yeah.
So
anyway, I needed
Yeah.
a hairstylist, and then I started going to you this summer between my 8th grade year and 9th grade year. So like,
Which, timeline-wise,
2021.
we were in the salon suite.
Mhm.
yeah,
I
started going to
remember
salon
the first time
suite.
I ever met you.
Really?
Yeah, and
That's weird.
I was like, because I think your mom was with you, obviously, and I was talking to your mom about the most random stuff.
Oh, right.
But
yeah.
I literally thought that you were like a freshman or sophomore in college.
Which is crazy because like looking back now to
You were
like
in eighth
me,
grade? Ninth?
yeah, going into 9th grade, and I had braces. I was real ugly. Like I kind of can understand why people think I'm older now, but like back then, I don't know how you thought that. But
Yeah,
thanks,
well.
sweet girl. But I went like a few times before, like I started getting my hair highlighted and all that stuff.
I remember when you first asked me, and you're a natural blonde, a pretty light blonde. I mean, you're still.
I
You
feel like
got
she's gotten a
darker.
little darker.
Yeah, you
definitely.
gotten darker as you gotten older. But I've only known one other person, who's my friend, that has hair like you, and I was like, "Do you want to lighten it?" Because you were like, "Well, I want to
So
still say like I've never gotten my hair colored, and I want to have that like whatever."
Yeah,
that
which sounds really bratty of me, but like I wanted like
It wasn't it didn't sound bratty. It was
Yeah.
I understood. I was like, no, I know. Like, and so you just kind of wanted it to be like sun kissed at first. So we
Yeah.
did like very subtle.
but I loved it. Yeah. And then like slowly got more and more as it's gotten darker. But then I was going a couple times, and then I actually when I applied for the job, so flash forward like 2 years later, November 2022. I didn't have Instagram on my phone at that time. Like I deleted it from my phone because I just was on it all the time. And it was actually like
How old were you?
this was like 6 months ago when I applied.
15.
So 15, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And because I started working here the week of my 16th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a rare coincidence. I was on Instagram and I saw the post and I was like, oh my gosh, like I would love that. Because I remember thinking like when I was here, like this would be a fun place to work.
Wait, I didn't know that. I didn't know you deleted it off your phone and then you just happened to be
Yeah,
on
I just happened to
Instagram.
stumble upon it. Like
Wow.
literally the Lord working. Like, He
Wow.
knew.
I just
But-
want you to know that you were such a spiritual leader in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
That's actually very sweet. Like that's a really
No,
huge
you said that, and I was like, I wonder if we're going to talk about that today. Because
Oh yeah. If
No,
you're talking
like-
about anything with my mental health.
I really do look up to you and like how strong you are in your faith and your walk with the Lord. Because like, I don't know, this year has been like, I've been growing a lot, you know, and having you here, it's just that like, I feel like a little bit of a reminder, especially like when Andrea was gone, like, you know, it's so easy to like the world to just like close in around you. And I feel like you being here is that like silent little voice in the back of your head that's like, God loves you.
She just whispers that in my ears.
Which that's crazy that you say that because like every day I feel like I'm failing as a Christian.
But I feel like that's like
that's like a universal truth about
Yeah.
anything is you always feel like you're not doing it right.
something that our pastor said one time was like, you don't realize how far in your walk of faith that you have to go until you're in your walk of faith.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's like really true because you think like outside of being a Christian, you're like, oh yeah, like I know Jesus, he's in my heart. But then when you start like really diving into it and you're like, wow, there's so much I didn't know, or there's so much I have to learn, and like it just humbles you.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, I think the cool thing about like anything to do with faith is there's always more you can grow. There's always closer, because we are human and we are imperfect, so we're never going to reach that like perfection.
Right.
And every day we're going to fail and struggle, and that's more time to come to God and give it to him and surrender. But I mean, but even just like looking back, like a year ago today was like I was just coming out of a really dark place. So like looking back and seeing how the Lord has taken me out of those circumstances, it's kind of like these conversations are like really nice because they're reminders of the Lord working. And when I encounter like something else in my life, like I'm encountering a very big change this season, and I can be like, well, God was with me there, so I know he's gonna be with me here. But
Trusting fully in him.
yeah, which I used to be like an Enneagram 8 before I moved here, and I think I've always struggled with like control. And I
You
mean,
were an
everybody
8?
does. No, I used to be. Before,
That's what I'm
okay,
even saying.
let me tell you, I'm a recovering 8. But
I feel like that's not possible for sweet little Maria.
really? I was really bossy as a kid, and I still have like moments where I have to catch myself, and I'm like, girl, you're not the boss. Like,
But also,
so-
like, 8s have, like, a stigma of, like, RBF.
yeah. Well, but here's the thing. So when I was in like 7th grade and I took the test for the first time, I was an 8 wing 7, and that was before I moved here. So then
I could see the 7.
I thought I was going to live in Tennessee for the rest of my life. And then God flips my world upside down. And everything that I thought I knew, all this control that I had over my life, is gone. And I think that's kind of what transitioned me to a 6. Now I'm a 6 wing 7.
But also, you said you were in 8th grade when you took that test for the first time?
Yeah.
Okay.
7th.
You
So,
being that mindful of yourself, having that self-awareness in 8th grade, like,
Yeah. I mean, but also, like, I don't know if any time you take the test that young, even, like, my Enneagram can still change as I grow.
oh, for sure. I mean,
because-
I've changed 14 times in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. But I think that, I mean, I don't know about it in today's world, but I know growing up, there was times where if you had mental health struggles and you were a Christian, it was almost just like prayed away.
Yeah.
And so, you know, having the, I have so many different views on mental health, honestly. I think that, you know, I'm a hippie.
Can we wrap up sorry, not to interrupt you, the me working here conversation?
Yes,
Me?
Because
absolutely.
Okay.
We
Yeah,
totally
You might,
Yeah, we did.
We derailed that, but then we'll come back.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, this is why.
But
you're
I
here.
want to hear this, though. So
No, I'll hold on to
put
it.
a pin in it.
Maybe.
We'll circle back.
We'll like
We'll break it down.
show our views or how we kind of struggled or came
Yeah.
out of it or whatever.
Yeah.
So I applied, and literally, like, in the application, I was like, I don't know if I'm who you're looking for. Like, I'm a
dang it.
teenager.
I wish I had the phone. I'd pull it up.
I mean, yeah. I don't know how we can
don't
pull it
think
up.
I have
Wait, I read it the other day, actually. because
Wait, you
it
have the
came-
salon email?
Oh, it's
Yeah.
in there?
Yeah.
And I literally was like, it was like your experience. And I was like, obviously I've only babysat, but like, LOL. And then I remember y'all texted me and we were like set up an interview, and then you ended up calling me. I was actually at the chiropractor office, and I was just telling him about this interview and how excited I was. And then y'all were like texting me saying like, can you call? And I stepped outside of my chiropractor's office and I like called you guys. And we were just like
That's so funny.
talking, because I have like a really cool schedule with school because I'm like half online kind of. So that was
found it.
like a really big. Okay, do you want to read it?
Okay. So,
It's gonna be
she put her
fun.
name, Maria Overman. What do you specialize in? Interested in receptionist job.
Mind you, we had like, what, 3 or 4 applicants for this?
Yeah. Which position? Obviously, she said the receptionist. Tell us about your goal as a stylist or employee. I'm not sure if I'm what you're looking for at all for this job, but it's worth a shot. I love Amber and Sage and Lexi so much. Don't feel bad if you're looking for someone full-time / an adult. Just let me know. But just wanted
So
to throw my name out there.
No, but the thing is you think it's so unprofessional, but like, you even putting yourself out there and saying like, you know, I totally understand not wanting to work around my schedule,
Yeah.
but I would love to be part of this Amber and Sage family.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that to us is like green flag all day.
I was like, I mean, I don't know.
Because, like, if somebody was just to respond to, like, especially a receptionist, if they were to respond to that and say, like, oh, well, I'm just interested in the job, like, but then you went out of your way to go above and beyond, and that sticks out to us.
Here, listen to this. So it says, like, list past positions, reason for leaving, as well as 3 non-family references. She says, obviously I've done babysitting, but I have an incredible attitude, people skills, plus do everything with joy and hard work. She says, if you tell me to fold 1,000 mini towels, I will get
my
started.
gosh,
on
that's so embarrassing!
Once again, I'm fully aware this application is a long shot due to my age, and y'all may be looking for someone with salon experience, older, or full-time. However, I'd love to be around to watch Amber and Sage grow.
Also, green flag, grammar.
Really?
That is a huge one for me, and I don't know why.
I can't do the A and an. When people can't put an in front of a word that starts with a vowel, like, I'm like, that is my one grammar tick.
No,
I'm
I
like,
mean, or like the you and your, or
Oh.
your and your.
I at least got that one down.
I'm just saying,
I
like,
don't really care
she
about.
was 15, and she got grammar right, punctuation, all the things. I was like,
That's
okay.
so sweet. That's kind of fun.
I'm just saying, like,
I honestly just skimmed through it, and I was like, let's call her.
Oh.
well, and Lexi, she did tell me, she was like, Maria's so mature, like, you've met her before, and I'm like, I didn't know enough about you to say, but I was like, I mean, if her schedule works out, then I'm down for that.
Well,
and, like,
every time you come in, if I was, like, not having a good day, or it was just, like, a day,
Because I always had to come in late.
You
'cause of
were,
school, but-
like, sunshine. Like,
Mhm.
you just came in, and you actually were a 15-year-old that would freaking talk to me,
yeah.
and not just, like, one word, like, hey, how's it going? Oh, good. And then, like, silence.
yeah.
I remember, like, we talked, like, tea. Like, I remember
Yeah.
one time, like, you sat in Alex's chair, and I was, like, showing you girls' Instagrams and, like, talking. But, yeah.
And then meanwhile, I'm like, spiritual leader.
I know, and I'm like, tea! But then,
Tea!
y'all called me outside the chiropractor, and that was, like, our accident. We didn't mean for that to be the interview, I don't think, but that was, like, the accident.
You're like, your application was unprofessional. We just called you. You're like, hey,
That's unprofessional.
let's talk.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, I kind of took, like, I was, like, really worried about the interview, because I was like, what do I wear? Because I've never had, well, the only interview I had was in 5th grade for BizTown. I became the mayor of BizTown. Just thought I'd let you guys know. That's a fun fact. Should put that on my resume. But, anywho, yeah, so y'all just called me, and then I remember I got the text, like, the next day, and I was in chemistry class, and I raised my hand, I said, Mr. Banks, I just got a job! And I was so excited. Like, I
That's
texted my
adorable.
parents immediately, like, I was so excited.
Aww.
Well, let's just talk about all the things that you did/do, right? So you started working here.
I did.
Okay,
Almost
I think
6
that
months
this is
now.
fun because this is from our perspective.
Yeah.
So, like, it can kind of make you feel...
Yeah,
A
I'm
little
like, is
good,
this gonna
because
be
this is from
hyping
our
me up
perspective
this
of-
whole time?
So, you were going to school,
Yeah.
working here 5 days a week,
Yeah,
in cheer,
it was.
in college classes.
Yeah.
Um,
She's like, that's all.
mind you, gonna graduate with your associate's degree,
Mm-hmm.
officially skipping a grade. So, class of 2024, here you come.
So excited.
Starting at the U of A, which she said she would never go to, and we get our way on that.
do.
We get you
And
for an
honestly,
extra year.
the salon was, like, a very big, like, aspect. Like, I made a pros and cons list of, like, going to the U of A versus, like, somewhere else. And I was like, I'll get an extra year at the salon. And that made me, like, I was like, that's a very big deal. Like,
Yeah.
So,
But always academia first.
yes.
Always. I feel like we're pretty cool bosses.
I
yeah.
think so, yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
say.
Like, working on your homework while you're up there.
Like,
Yeah.
this job isn't, you're not always constantly, every 5 seconds, doing something.
Should we explain my job?
I mean,
Yes,
she
but
really...
backing off that, she would be up here when, like, nobody's there, nobody to greet, whatever, doing her homework.
Yeah. I mean,
They're
that's...
not to pretend.
A lot of the times, like, I would literally get reamed if I did that at Walmart when I worked there.
Mm,
Like,
yeah.
I wasn't even allowed to look at my phone, let alone open a textbook. But
But we want you to do your
Yeah.
homework to like stay on track, so you're not here and then falling behind.
Yeah. And I got into a good groove. Like, it was hard at first. So I started in November. And the week of my 16th birthday was, like, the week of Thanksgiving. I started on a Monday. And I only worked, like, 2 days. But it was a good, like, intro. And then I actually, like, the first 3 days that I worked here, my mommy had to come and pick me up because I couldn't drive.
Yes.
And I
Sarah
wonder
Bear.
if y'all thought, like, maybe this is a mistake. Like, actually, one of the stylists, I won't call her out, but she told me the other day that whenever I first came in and I, like, sat down, she was like, ugh, why did they hire a child? And I was like, literally, so, like, I was like, I don't blame you. Like, if I didn't know me, that sounds really braggy, but, like, I don't
Yeah.
blame you. And I was like,
Well, in our past experience with with another high schooler, like,
yeah.
that was my one reservation, was just the high school mentality.
Yeah.
But you just don't have it. You don't have that, like, entitlement, like, especially with kids around here. I feel like it's just a lot different. I mean, kids in general nowadays, especially post-COVID, like, they're just very, like, I don't know how to explain it.
Oh,
But,
no.
like, you don't got it. You don't got that bug.
I don't know. And and I've talked about this before, like with my parents and stuff. I'm like, I think I've always been around older people. Like, I'm like the youngest cousin. All of them are married and have kids. And like, I think I was more interested in the adult conversations than like the kid conversations. And I think,
And we kind of said this yesterday. I don't think it makes the people who hang out with you look immature. It makes you look mature for hanging out with the older people.
that makes me feel really cool.
I mean, 100%.
really cool.
I would be 100% confident that if there was a conflict that walked through the door, that you would be able to handle it, no problem.
Yeah. Thanks. I think I would probably have a panic attack, but then I would handle it.
Right. But you are salon manager. Like, you're not just receptionist. So, when it comes time to hire a new person,
She's going to tear up.
I am. But when it comes time to hire a new person, we're gonna have to like have you
We're going to have
almost
about a
like an
6 month
overlap
training process.
Yeah.
I think.
At least a month of overlap.
Yeah, because like we can't. That's not something that somebody can just be thrown into and expect to like do it good.
And I think that's why we work so well, is because, like, I like to be independent, kind of, and I like to, like, do my own thing and take initiative, and I think, like, you guys don't have time to sit there and tell me what to do all the time. Like, you have clients, you have business stuff to work on.
And that's
So,
what we
like,
wanted. We didn't want to have to micromanage somebody.
Yeah.
That was our biggest thing,
Yeah.
especially with hiring a child, because like you know,
Yeah.
I
Like,
mean,
you can't be like, okay, can you go fold the towels? Can you go this, that?
No,
And
obviously
it's like-
that first month of working, we're going to have to tell you what to
Oh,
do.
yeah.
You're not going to know. You can't read our minds. But then, after a couple months, like, we can't just do this for years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
no, and I love it. I love that you are such a go-getter. You like literally our social media. She has like posts planned out for the next month?
No, right now, week, but.
Oh, okay. Well,
She
blowing
at
that
least
out.
has posts planned out.
ignorance is bliss.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
She's amazing.
yeah, blinders. But salon manager, I think that like at first we fully expected you to only be receptionist, and I think that you've just filled the boots of salon manager so well that like you deserve a title probably more than salon manager. But
Executive salon manager?
CEO salon manager?
Amber, Sage, and Maria.
No, not that far. Sorry.
Dang.
We don't even have our names in the title.
Yeah.
Amber and Sage, or no, accidentally on purpose, and Maria.
And Maria. Featuring Maria.
Maria.
It's actually really funny because people will like ask me what I do at my job because I talk about it so much because like I love you guys.
I'm sure your friends are like, God, I'm so
They're like literally shut up about these old women. No,
Oh, no.
I'm just kidding.
if I am old at 26
No,
or
I'm
25,
shushing.
I'm literally gonna roll over
you just
dead.
made yourself older.
I guess so.
I'm gonna roll over my bed. But like I try to explain. I'm like receptionist, but like manager feels like a uppity title. Like when we
But
posted
that's
that
what it is.
TikTok, and it was like when the manager is 16. Like my friends were like, "How are you the manager? Like these people are older than you." I'm like, I don't manage them. Like I figure out the
We
stuff
got
in the back
actually
end.
like Karen on TikTok
Yeah.
We got a
because
hate
of it.
comment. Our first hate comment. It was really fun.
They were
it
like
was
probably related to one of the owners.
Well, I think her first comment was, "Why is the manager?"
It's like, why
you're
is
like-
the grammar?
Grammar, yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. And then Phoebe comments back. I told her not to, but she comments back and was like, because she's amazing and incredible or something like that. And then the hater commented back and was like, she's probably related to one of the owners. And I was like, no, but thanks, sweet girl.
I mean, honestly,
Just for the
you
compliment.
went about it just like any other person would have.
Yes.
And just so happened that Lexi had done your hair.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I actually feel very flattered that we were hated on.
Yeah, I mean, we got a little bit of attention for it. It's fine.
Yeah, I love that.
Changing the industry standard, I guess. I don't know.
true.
That's
But it is
whole
weird
goal.
to describe. Like, I'm like, I am, like, I say, like, salon manager, but I'm like, I just kind of, I, like, fill the roles of, like, nanny, personal assistant, receptionist, salon manager,
Oh yeah,
Alex Wrangler.
very valid.
Yeah.
Keep me on track. She watches my kids, and my son loves her boyfriend probably more than he loves me.
I was wondering, I was like, I wonder if Parker's going to come up in this. And actually, my dad told me last night, like, we were talking about this.
The other Parker.
And
The other
my
Parker.
Other Parker, which, whenever I say that my dad and my boyfriend have the same name, the reaction is always, ooh. But I was telling my dad about this, and he was like, oh, I want to watch. And then I was thinking, I was like, gonna say hi to him. And then I was like, I don't know. And then I was wondering, I was
Hi,
like,
Parker.
Hi, Parker.
Parker boyfriend and Parker dad.
both, all
Both Parkers.
all apply. But
And Sarah Bear.
And Sarah Bear.
You know that you took the whole, like, you marry a man like your dad
Oh, gosh.
to a whole nother level.
This is true.
It's not weird, though. Like, that's kind of what happened.
We know these people at the engagement party that we just went to.
Mm-hmm.
So names are Mason, Jordan, Morgan, right?
Three
Morgan
people?
Morgan is married to a Jordan, and Mason is marrying a Jordan.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah.
2 Jordans.
2 Jordans, and then Morgan and Jordan. Because there's a middle sister or older sister. Her name's Jordan too. So there's 3.
Oh, that's
Oh, my
confusing.
gosh.
Yeah.
That's really
They had to do
confusing.
that on purpose.
I mean,
Had to-
Accidentally on purpose.
accidentally on purpose.
Yeah, that was kind of cute when you guys did that.
We're
It's okay.
wearing the same shorts.
Love that.
If you didn't know.
I'm embracing the pale today. Got to do my
It's
fake
okay.
tan.
We love it.
Okay, well, moving on to like the real.
Yeah. What
Oh,
we're
yeah,
supposed
what
to be
we're
talking
actually here
about.
How is like dealing with more mature people here at work versus dealing with like super immaturity at school? I know that you're not at school a lot, but like,
That's true.
how is that?
2 different dynamics.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think I never really realized that I was like mature for my age or that I looked or acted older until I worked here, really.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone kept coming in and was like, are you a freshman in college? Are you this or that? Are you? And I would say like, oh, I'm a sophomore. And they'd be like, in college?
I think the biggest thing for me is that you know how to read the room and read the audience and have tact
Mm-hmm.
with people in the room. Like, you don't just come up to me, start talking about random shit. Like, you're just like, you know, very tactful with everything that you do. And I think that shows your maturity in and of itself, because there's like stylists, not here, but like
Yeah.
people that I know
Our
that
stylists
literally
love it.
talk about the worst things you could ever talk about behind the chair.
Yeah. And you're like, that's kind of unprofessional.
Right.
I think that honestly comes from a place of insecurity, because it's like, I want everyone to like me and I want to be liked. So I want to match where they're at and match like their level, which can get you in trouble if you're like trying to match everybody.
Well, no, that's,
But-
I mean, even again, the fact that you're so self-aware of that.
thanks.
So,
She's like, I'm blushing.
what is something that you would say is like, you know, you think about memories that you have working here for the past 6 months, 7
Yeah.
months? Like, what's the top experience that you've experienced here that you're like, wow, core memory?
I mean, there's so many. I mean, like, Amber and Sage has been such a huge part of my life, like, the past 6 months. And it's crazy, it's already 6 months. Like, I don't know, there's so many fun things. Like, even, like, Lexi's wedding was so fun. So we were all just, like, sitting around the table, and I was like, I can actually be friends with these people. That was, like, the first time I realized, like, we have a relationship outside of work. And that's when Phoebe and I got really close, actually.
Aw.
Was at your wedding, and we always talk about that. Like, we knew nothing about each other, except she knew how I incorrectly put a tampon in. Which, I don't know, you might want to cut that out, but, like,
That's funny.
she knew that, but, like, we didn't know each other that well. So, like, realizing that we have, like, we can have friendship outside of work, but also
Right.
just, like, you guys, I wish you guys could experience what I experienced, because, like, imagine just 7 girls just pouring into your life daily. Like, every girl serves a purpose in my life and, like, teaches me something different. And I know I could go to any one of y'all for anything. But it's, like, I also know, like, certain areas of my life, I can go to certain people. But also just, like, in deciding to graduate early, I really valued your guys' input. Because I was like, I'm sure some of them, like, high school was the best time of their life. And some of them, high school was the worst time. So, like, having all of y'all's experiences poured into me, like, that is so valuable. And I think just, like, so many times I know I'm going to look back and be so grateful for that. And I already am so grateful.
Well, and I think it can kind of give you hope, too. Because hope that not every girl is a mean one.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And, like, this kind of goes to the culture that you and I have wanted to cultivate and, like, make happen is, like, everybody pouring into each other. And, like, her hearing that just, like, warms my heart knowing that we've done something right in choosing our team.
I know.
And, like, the fact that, like, I feel like the receptionist is, like, the number one most not liked person in a salon.
Yeah.
And, like, because you could really mess up a lot of stuff with scheduling if you wanted to.
Absolutely.
You wear so many hats and you do them all so well. And, like, scheduling, social media, responding, like, literally everything, you do them so well. And, like, just the fact that everybody is just so tight.
Yeah.
While still keeping barriers, too. Like, boundaries and barriers to how deep they're willing to go, which is fine. But, you know, this Amber and Sage is a cloud.
This is rare. Like, it's so unique how tight we are and how, like, it's so sweet.
And I can only hope that in the future people come and go. Like, I can only hope that, like, our team continues to be this great. And as long as we, you know, maintain the culture and, like, don't let negative energy come in here, then, you know, winner.
Yeah. I think we attract what we put out, though, too.
So you don't have, like, one specific core memory?
One? I don't know.
Or if, like, somebody's like, describe work. Just, like, describe the one thing that you love most about your job.
Okay. These are, like, 4 different questions.
Well, like, all-encompassing.
It's a lot.
I remember, like, the first day or two I started working here, I was, like, sitting up front and I didn't have anything to do. And so I started taking a Clorox wipe and, like, cleaning the doors. And I looked back and you were, like, looking at me, just, like, smiling. And, like, I could tell that you were, like, proud. And you were, like, yeah, that's good.
We picked a good one.
Because you did something that we didn't have to ask you.
And I was just, like, I don't know what to do, so I'll just
and
clean.
also, I think it had been so paralyzing for you and I to do that because being a salon owner, even though there are only 2 of us, there's only so much that we can do.
Yeah.
Like, cleaning the windowsill and the door, like, that's not something that we think about doing all the time. And the fact that you did it, like, it's like
keeping yourself busy and not just being on your phone.
Yeah, for sure.
I hate being on my phone when I'm, like, at the front because I'm like, I feel like there's always something I can do. And sometimes at the end of the day, I'm like, there's nothing I can do. I don't think, like, I've cleaned everything. Or I'll, like, go down my mental checklist. But also, going back to the stylist point, I was describing this to Parker's parents the other day, but each girl is, like, a representation of decisions I can make and, like, paths I can go down. And they all have led to success. Like, they're all thriving in here. And, like,
I guess because we all are in different stages of life.
Yeah.
Every single one of us.
But y'all have all made different decisions to get there.
Yeah.
And I'm in some of the most formative years of my life, making some really big decisions.
Absolutely.
You just used the word formative.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that means, bro.
Like, transformational, kind of, like...
Important?
Very important, yeah. Like,
You're like a sponge right now.
Yes, like, the decisions I make will affect me the rest of my life. And I acknowledge that. And it's scary, but I can see, I'm like, okay, all of these girls have made different decisions, but they've all ended up okay. And I know that I can come to them with any decision that I make. But it's cool to see, like, all their different lives they've ended up with. But
I think that's like big that you're like, they've all ended up okay. Like,
everything works out.
That means there's not just one path you can take.
Yeah.
And that's going to lead to success. There's multiple of that will lead to success.
Well, that kind of goes, the book I hated that you told me to read, I was just thinking about that.
Well, let's describe it. So it's called Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Taylor Jenkins Reid is my favorite author. I love
Disclaimer,
reading.
I thought this was like, a situation like Family Man with Nicolas Cage or something. I thought it was like she makes a decision based on what she sees in the future, right? No.
She's at this point and she decides whether she's going to go home with her high school sweetheart or not. And every other chapter is alternating between if she goes home with him or if not. And she has 2 completely separate lives, 2 completely different outcomes.
But she
based
lives
on the
happily
choices
ever
she made.
after in both of them.
Both of them. And I loved it so much. I give it 5
It's
stars.
a good concept.
Now that you like explained that perspective of how you think that with like all of us and just whatever, that makes sense why you like it.
Yeah.
And now that you've heard that, can you kind of think of the book differently?
Oh, for sure, because especially with her being in formative years of her life, like she sees how one little decision can change the whole trajectory of your life.
Crazy.
Yeah.
You should read it. I love it.
But it's funny. I'm explaining it to Lexi like, oh, she gets in a car wreck and she has to decide what life she wants to go to. No, that's not the case at all. I'm flipping last page. I'm like, okay, well, when's she going to get to decide? When's she going to get to decide? Keep flipping the page. Nothing. Last page, happily ever after. I'm like, are you kidding me?
But it's like, no matter what decision she makes, it was the right one.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously in real life, we don't have that, like, we can't see that. But it just gives me peace knowing, and I think also that's why I love the Lord so much, is because I know that no matter what path I choose, no matter what, decisions I make, that it's all going to be okay.
Right.
Because I know the same constants of, like, God is always with me. I have a savior, like, etc. All those things.
He's always with you. If he's not delivering you through it, he's going to be always there with you.
Yeah.
Presence versus delivery. Anyway.
Yeah,
so
I don't even know where that
getting on what?
I don't know, like, how we got on that, but I love it.
Yeah, book review.
Still going.
So hold on. Nope, that's not it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Nope.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Still really awkward for a little bit.
Okay, so the real reason why we're all here, we wanted to talk about mental health because each one of our walks in mental health has been completely different. And, you said earlier that your 1 year of, like, coming out of a really dark place was here. And, it's crazy to think that, you came into our lives when you had been, like, out of that dark place for a little bit. So, like, thinking that our sunshine of Maria could be anything less than the sunshine is crazy. But also, everybody has struggles. So kind of like your testimony, really.
Sorry.
And I guess that's what it would be, right? Yeah.
Obviously, one of my goals this year was actually to share my testimony. I ended up getting to share it at a Fields of Faith event with FCA, and it was terrifying. That was in October, and that was the first time that I had, like, shared my story. And a lot of the people in the crowd were people I went to school with. And that's really terrifying because these are people that knew me through this time.
And it's kind of like, I was just thinking about, like, on 13 Reasons Why she makes the tapes or whatever. No, I know this is really bad. But, like, you're telling your testimony through all these stories of your life, right? And there's people in the crowd who were involved in that story.
So that's the similarity.
Yes, that's the similarity. Nothing else.
That's all. Yeah, so that was, but because I think all throughout my journey, my dad really walked through it all with me because he's struggled with mental health before. But he kept telling me over and over again, like, you're going to use your story for good and you're going to be able to tell people and help people, like, walk people through this because of what you've been through. And I think that was really hard for me to hear during the time.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I want to be happy for myself, not just because I can help other people, which seems selfish, but
no.
So anyway, my first, like, struggle with mental health was in 8th grade. So way back when, 2 years ago, spring of 8th grade, I started having anxiety attacks, and I had no idea what was happening to me. Like, I remember, like, the weirdest things, like, I had a bunch of rings on my fingers and I had to take them all off, like, they were, like, choking me, it felt like. And then I, like, ran to the bathroom and I, like, threw up, and I was just so anxious and I couldn't breathe, I couldn't calm myself down, and, like, that happened a few times before, and I still don't really know why they were triggered, like, I'm not sure, and now I can look back and, try to figure out why, but that was my first experience with mental health negatively, And I think when I was really young, now I can recognize that I probably went through a depressive episode in like 5th grade, which is really young and really sucks, but I didn't really realize what it was. But yeah, so I started experiencing anxiety.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but being a mother, like your kid goes through so many emotions and goes through so many, like mental changes. Like you see the world differently. And I think around that time, correct me if I'm wrong, I think around that time you start to like, I'd have to look up the specifics, but there's specific brain mental changes that happens around that time.
I'm sure.
So like, it's like almost like your world getting thrown upside down again.
Yeah.
Like you come into consciousness when you're like 4 or 5, and like kids.
Crazy to me.
That's crazy.
Right. I saw TikTok about it the other day, and I was like, I've never even thought about that.
Like you have like a conscious like decision making factor. Yeah. If somebody listening to this is probably like, she's full of shit. But
Correct us in the comments.
Yeah. Like right and wrong decision making.
Yeah.
Parts of your brain being formed, things like that. So like, of course, chemical imbalances and, like overwhelmingness, looking at the world differently too.
And when you're genetically predisposed to, like I am, due to my dad's own mental health struggles, like I'm genetically predisposed to not having enough serotonin, the happy chemical. And so a psychiatrist described it like this, like it was like, I was already predisposed to this, but then something like bad happens in your life and it like brings it out kind of. So I think in 5th grade I was going through a really hard time with some relationships, and I think that kind of triggered it. But in 8th grade it was triggered because I always don't know how to word this, but I was experiencing sexual violence by someone really close to me. And so that kind of began in like spring of 8th grade. And that kind of brought this genetic predisposition out in me. So I started experiencing anxiety and I started experiencing depression, and I had literally no idea what it was.
Making you feel like more out of control of your own life.
Yes.
Especially with, not being in control of your sexual health.
Right,
yeah.
Right. So you described it very good. But so I started getting really anxious, and then because of that anxiety, like I didn't want to do anything, and I didn't have the motivation to do anything. And I remember after about a month of this, I'm so lucky that I had parents I could talk to about this. But I ended up talking to them, and I was like, hey, like I don't think this is normal, and I don't think this is right, because it's about to start summer, and I don't want to do anything, and I just want to lay in my bed, and I don't feel like I have the motivation to do anything and to get up. And I was like, I'm just faking this happiness. And which that is a really hard thing that I struggled my whole depression journey, was feeling like I had to fake my happiness, because I was known as like this bubbly, loud extrovert, and I just felt like I was putting on a mask. And by the end of the day, I'm exhausted because I don't have the motivation to be that happy, but I just have to put on that face, know. I struggled with that for a long time. And it wasn't until my mom was like, she told me, she was like, if you aren't feeling up to it, you don't have to fake it. And she was like, if someone asks, just say you're not feeling well, because that's the truth. And so I started like not putting on a mask and not faking it. And someone would ask and I'd be like, I'm not feeling good, which is true. I just wasn't feeling good in my brain, not my stomach, not a headache. But so just like a timeline. So that started the spring of 8th grade, and all through the summer of 8th grade, those were some really dark times for me. And I started counseling in July, which, because like my parents were watching me, and we had a couple conversations, and we thought that would be beneficial for me. And because it wasn't getting any better, it wasn't just like a fling.
Do you have any advice for somebody that might not have somebody they can talk to?
Oh,
like
gosh.
Good parents?
Yeah. I think if you don't feel like you can come to your parents, you might want to think about like how they might see it and their like perspective of mental health, and come to them with like all the facts and be like, I'm not feeling good. I don't think this is normal. I've been feeling this way for like 2 weeks or a month, and that's longer than I should feel that way, rather than just be like, I'm feeling sad. Because you need to whoever you come to, if you don't think they're going to be responsive, you need to come to them with kind of the weight of the situation and be like, this is not normal because of the length that I've been feeling this. Like, and then I think, like, I hope and I pray that that would help them realize, like, the abnormality of the situation.
Right.
Being like, if you come to them with all the facts, and rather than just be like, I'm feeling sad.
Well, you know, there's like a paralyzing factor in that too, you know, like.
That's really, really
That's
scary.
terrifying.
Yeah. And like having the balls essentially to go and talk to your parents, or like a confidant that you know, whatever. But like, my fear for people, especially nowadays, is that they go to somebody like this, or, you know, a teacher or a friend or whatever, and that it's made light of.
Yeah.
And almost like not taken seriously. So that's why I asked that, because I'm like, if your parents weren't as responsive as they are, and as like listened as much as they will do, how would you say that to somebody who? Because then it's super discouraging if they say, like, oh, you're fine. You're fine. You're having a bad day.
Yeah.
You know?
I've been told, just don't think like that. Think yourself out of it. You can not think like that. You can not have anxiety. Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm better. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
So, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have been told that. And that's hard. That invalidates your feelings.
Yeah. And I felt really bad going to therapy at first because I was like, my problems aren't as bad as other people's. And I remember my counselor, Catherine, love you so much, saying to me, like, okay, so that's like not going to the ER because you have a broken arm because someone else has a broken leg. Like, someone else has it worse than you, so don't go to the ER. But no, you still need treatment, even if your problems you don't think are as bad as someone else's. But I would encourage, like, kids or anything. I think now, like, our generation is changing the narrative for mental health, and I think adults are realizing that. And, like, my school has a lot of resources that I didn't even realize, and I think that would, like...
Do you feel like... Because we all view mental health so differently. We all, as in us three.
Oh, yeah.
Do you feel like... I have to make sure and say this right so I don't sound insensitive, but do you think that people have bad days and they just say, oh, I'm depressed, or oh, I have anxiety, and make light of that situation and almost like downgrade the way that you felt just because they had a bad day?
Oh, yeah. So that's one of my things. Anytime someone says, this happened last week, a kid sat down and got a test and he said, ugh, I'm so depressed. And I said, don't say that. And he was like, and I was like, it desensitizes the word. It makes it not have as much meaning. And so when someone comes up to you and is trying to be vulnerable and open up to you and say, I'm depressed, you're like, oh yeah, me too. Like, I'm depressed with that snow cone that I dropped on the ground. Like, I think, or when someone says, like, ugh, I'm about to have a panic attack, like, dramatically, I think those are really harmful. And even, I was having a conversation with someone the other day because they said, and it was a learning experience for both of us, and they said, like, oh, like, I just like to sexually harass you. And I was like, okay, so it's fine to, like...
joke, but not loud, not with those words.
Yes, it was like, it's fine to joke, like, if you were like, I just like to smack you on the butt. That would be a better phrase than sexually harass, because that is a very powerful statement, and it takes away the meaning if you're just, like, joking like that. Even when you hear people say, like, ugh, I'm gonna kill myself, which is just, like, a whole nother problem. And I think our society has kind of, like, normalized these words of, like, a daily conversation. And sometimes I have to catch myself. And I'm like, no, like, that has real weight and real meaning, what you say. And someone else, like, that can be triggering to someone else who's struggling with that.
Right.
But I do think society's, like, normalized those words to where they don't have as much value as they used to. And I think we're kind of need a shift.
Do you think that people, like, say they're having bad week, right? And life just sucks sometimes, right? That doesn't mean necessarily that, like, you don't have the ability to make serotonin,
Right.
Do you think that people abuse things like medications for that? And they're just like, oh, I'm going to go put this Band-Aid on my problem, but really I'm just having a bad week or a month or really unfortunate season of my life?
I don't know about that because I'm sure this happened, but I know when I first went to the doctor to get medicine, they gave me this whole screening, and it was like specific, like, dates. Like, it was like I had to tell like how long, and I think if it was like 2 weeks, if you told the doctor like, yeah, it's been about 2 weeks, they might tell you like, okay, come back in a month, and we're gonna check in with you there.
Right. Well, just like there's people who abuse like painkillers and stuff like that. I'm sure.
I mean, it's always gonna happen.
Right.
But I think, and medicine was really hard for me to like wrap my brain around because I was like, I should be able to be happy on my own. And this is where I started to doubt God. I was like, why am I not happy? Like, you should give me this happiness. I deserve this. Like, it's my very like selfish mentality. And that's when I started getting so mad at God and my relationship with him just during that time. But I was like, I should be able to make myself happy. Like, why do I have to take these stupid pills that are supposed to make me happy? And they didn't even work. Like, that was what sucked is, but I do encourage anybody that is starting to take medicine, like, it might not be the first one, might not be the second dose. Like, I went through my third medicine and we had to adjust the dose. Like, it was like, I went through so many different medicines to find the one that helped me. But during that time, I took one medicine that actually helped like my family. And so you'd think it would help me, but it actually made my depression worse. And it made it very bad. And like, I would, like, seek help, like, please, if that is the case, if it's making it worse, because you're advised to just like stop taking it, because I probably should have, but I just, but I think not always the first medicine works.
Yeah.
Like,
well, off the topic of depression and more so anxiety, I feel like personally, since being medicated for my ADHD, I feel like my anxiety stemmed from that. Because I was feeling paralyzed and overwhelmed and like having the craziest anxiety because I couldn't pay a bill, or the craziest anxiety because I couldn't fold 7 piles of laundry.
yeah.
Like, but if I had just had not even the motivation, but like the not paralyzing fear of doing it, then I wouldn't have had anxiety about it. I wouldn't have made myself hate myself even more, because like that was one of the things I've talked about before, is like the mom guilt outweighs everything else that I had dealt with not being medicated. And just like I'm more present with my kids, I feel like. And so me having like, especially after talking to people all day long, me coming home and being present for my kids, like I would literally just like disassociate when I'd get home. And that gave me anxiety and kind of made me feel worse about myself and gave me more depression, I feel like. Because I couldn't be there for my kids. So, and it's not even about energy. It's not about that, because I know people are like, oh, you're on crack, you're on Adderall. No, like it's about being able to form a train of thought so I can help my son's imagination flourish. Or, whatever. So I feel like my anxiety definitely stemmed from my ADHD, and I know it's different for everyone. And I know that sometimes being on things like Adderall can make your anxiety worse, but for me personally, that is not the case. And I feel like it was an answered prayer at the right time, because I was really starting to get down on myself. But yeah, anxiety.
I think that's a human experience. Like, your reaction to medicine is going to be different. What your anxiety stems from is going to be different. Like, I didn't know my anxiety was from the abusive situation that I was in. And now looking back, like, through therapy, I can notice that. And, like, through reflection, but I think we all, like, it all stems from different things, and medicine can help us in different ways, or it cannot. Like, some people might feel like, oh, I can do this on my own. And, like, I think there's a healthy way to do that, too. Like, I don't think And I would love to get to a place someday where I don't have to take medicine. But honestly, right now, I'm like, I'm really scared if I get off that medicine. Like, what if I just am depressed again? Like, that's really scary.
So
But-
you saying that kind of brings me into the part where I feel like you and I really differ on our views of medication. Like, I think that they're 100% necessary when necessary, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But you wanting to come off of them. Like, you know that it's not an ideal long-term solution. Like, it's, like, right now, like, that's what you need, right?
Right, yeah.
But I feel like the mental health crisis in the United States, this is just my personal opinion, come at me if you want to, or I can talk to you more about it, but I feel like the mental health, like, crisis in the United States is so bad because your happy hormone comes directly from your gut. And the diet in America is so bad. As, you know, like, I'm an 80-20 gal. Like, I try really hard. I've said this before. I try really hard to eat pretty good. Like, not processed. You know, most of the time, I just try to eat what my body needs. But I'm gonna be at Zaxby's. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get that. But I feel like people just really, I don't know. I think that the diet has a lot to do with it. And, like,
Yeah.
I'd love to see the mental health rates in other countries and, like, what that looks like in other countries, because, like, is it truly worse in the United States? Or, you know, and then, like, all the things that are happening in the United States right now can be so overwhelming for someone. And, you know, we said it last week, ignorance is bliss, or the week before last on Kylie's episode or whatever. Like, gives me gray hairs to think about sometimes. And I can only imagine what it feels like for somebody who is dealing with mental health already.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, like, everybody who eats is bad, but I'm just saying, like, sometimes being predisposed plus adding something like super processed food or, you know, chemicals or, you know, you know, things like that. I feel like your gut and your brain are so directly connected. They call your gut, you know, your second brain. And that's where my thought process is on.
So I want to talk a little bit.
Yeah, girl.
I just got off of my medication, so it's kind of like different, but I have been on it since, well, I tried ADHD medicine in 7th grade, and actually I hated it. It made I'm a ginger, so I'm already red in general, and it would just make me, like, one time this guy was like, your face is purple because of how red it got. And I was like, thanks.
You're so sweet.
And so that actually made my heart rate higher, worse, and I just had more anxiety. So I don't know if I didn't need it or whatever, but I've always had trouble focusing and test taking, and wasn't a good student because of that. But then I got on anxiety medication because that just got worse. And I had been on that until, I don't know, like a couple months ago when I decided to get off of it. Because, like, I was like, I don't, personally, in the stage that I'm at, I felt tied down to it and reliant on it, and I didn't want to be, or like just like trapped with it.
Yeah.
And I didn't want that anymore. And I didn't always feel like that. I needed it in high school. I needed it, you know, through huge transitions. And I got on different medications when, like, one didn't work. Or
I remember when you were really struggling and you were really anxious about, like, getting on a new medicine because the other one had made you feel like it just kind of stopped working, and you got on a new one. And I just remember thinking, like, it must just be so overwhelming to, like, constantly worry if one's gonna work, if one's not gonna work. And then, like, also just seeing you in that transition of your life, like, and then coming out of it, and then for you to be like a couple months ago, like, actually I think I don't need this anymore. Like, that's huge. And I mean, like,
crazy.
You're in those formative times of your youth, I guess you could say. And
also, like, I was different then. Like, if I thought how I did now, maybe I would have tried to come off. But
Yeah.
I was so depressed, and I had a lot of things going on. I had an eating disorder, which was on top of that, so it was just really bad. So I needed the drugs, I guess, to rely on, but I don't really even know at the time if it worked. Like, I kind of just had to, like, get myself out of it.
And that's where I feel like controversy could come in, because you say, like, how it's, like, almost like self-control and, like, being, like, but then Maria's like, no, it's a chemical imbalance.
It is.
It
is.
No, I know, that's what I'm saying, but, like, I guess I'm not confused, but, like, my thought process kind of gets derailed a little bit, because, like, you're like, oh, well, I can will myself to not need this.
I had to get myself out of it. Well, so
I don't think you can have one without the other. Like, she's in this place where she can get off the medicine comfortably because of the progress that she's made in therapy and in her own life. And I think, like, being independent and having people you can count on versus, like, if you had, like, a lot of the doctors I talked to during my experience with depression and anxiety, it was, like, you can't just be on medicine. You can't, like, you can just be out there, like, you know, but it's a mixture of a lot of different things. Like, it's, like, for me, it was, like, having a good support group, medicine and therapy. For some people, it might be just therapy and a support group. For some people, it may just, you know, like, it's going to be a mixture of different things. And because she's in that place of, like, she
doesn't
working
feel as
through
alone.
therapy.
So what I meant by getting myself out of it, I was, okay, not really. The lowest part of my life was when I went to my friend Paige. I'm going to say your name because I will always thank you for this. I went to her and I literally told her to take me to a mental institution. And she was like, she didn't know what to do. Like, that's very, very heavy. But, like, I was screaming, crying, and said, drive me there. Like, I can't deal with myself. And I don't know what I'm going to do. And so she took me to her mom instead. And so they talked to me. And this was, like, I was 19. And so they talked to me. I confessed to them what I was doing and, like, doing to myself. And so they made me, or they didn't make me, but she was like, you need to tell your parents. And I was like, I'm not that person to do that. I'm quiet and I'm very reserved.
And you were still living at home, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say that your relationship with your parents didn't get, like, as good as it is now while you were living with them.
No.
So you probably felt really overwhelmed.
Right. Because I wanted to be an adult, but I was still reliant on them. And they also wanted to protect me. And they knew, like, they saw how I was. But I think they also didn't know what to do. So
It's like uncharted territory.
Yes. So her mom was like, we can go with you and we can talk to them with you, or you can do it by yourself, but we will go with you. But I decided to do it by myself. And then when I did that, we got me into therapy. And then we went to my psychiatrist, and that's when we kind of switched my medicine up. But I think therapy, like, really, really helped. And I'm still in it, still with the same girl. But I think therapy was a very big part of it, support system. And that first step is going to somebody.
Yeah.
And that if I didn't, I don't know.
And hopefully for them not to make it light of the situation and like actually take it serious.
Right. And so once all that happened, I mean, it wasn't all up from there. I still struggled, and I think that's what maybe some people that are going through like really, really, really dark times don't realize is once you do take that first step to healing, it isn't all rainbows and butterflies. You're gonna dip. You're gonna have a relapse of something. Like, it's just inevitable because
they call it 1 step forward and 3 steps back for a reason.
That Olivia Rodrigo song.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's very hard, but now, so I was 19, I'm 23 now, and I just now got off medication, and I finally feel like I can use my mind, and it's so much stronger now to where I can, like, if I'm having anxiety, I can work through it myself.
You have those coping mechanisms and those
Yes.
tools that your therapist taught you.
And not a lot of people have that. And so you need that medication to help you calm down.
But
when
your
you
brain is
can't get
also
out of it.
different than it was 4 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So therapy
And your life
and
stage is
medication.
different.
Yes.
I mean, even the life that you're going through is
Yeah.
different than where you were. But I mean, I think that it's very important, like that you have those tools now to, if you encounter something, you know how to get around it because of that therapy.
Right.
And I think that's something like really valuable. I think that's why you can't just do medicine, is because like you need to do therapy on top of it. Because you need those tools to cope. And I mean,
and then practice, like after therapy, when you get those tools, just like a game, or just like I was in dance, and just like practicing your dance routine, you have to go home and you have to practice those tools, and you can't just like listen to your therapist and it goes one ear out the other,
Right.
because it isn't gonna help. So you have to make yourself, like, when your heart's racing and you feel like you're going to have a panic attack and you can't breathe, your chest is tight and you're like gonna suffocate, like, you have to use those tools. And it's hard in that moment because your brain is everywhere,
right.
but you just have to think, like, I need to better myself because I don't want to feel like this forever. This isn't life. Like, you don't want to feel like this for years. Like, yeah, maybe one day out of the week you'll have a anxious day, but it shouldn't be every single day.
It's like that TikTok sound where it's like, turn it off.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. But I think that's a very good response to like your question about like me saying like it's chemical and also like
Everything goes hand in hand.
yeah, and it's all like connected, and there's so many different factors in play, and that's why everybody's like mental health experience is different. Is like there's so many, like everybody's brain works differently, everybody's choices are, and that's actually like what really interested me in medicine is like I want to know how, like I would love for one day there to be a blood test that you would take and be like, oh, your serotonin's low. Because, like, right now it's just, like, guessing game. And it's, like, you know, for the psychiatrist, it's like, I think this will work based on this. But and I'm also just, like, so interested in, like, how does your gut affect your brain? Like, all of these different things, all these different factors. Like, I think when I took general psych last semester, and I'm taking AP psych this year, which I'm really excited about. But, like, it's all just so interesting. Like how your brain reacts to the world and just like fight or flight, and like realizing that's like the PTSD side of everything is like your sympathetic nervous system isn't working, and it's recognizing this as a danger. And like, I don't know, I really am just so interested in that.
I found out the other day that your body can, maybe you told me this.
No, I don't know.
Your body can feel the same pain that you went through on anniversaries of whatever.
I did not tell you this.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
No.
I didn't tell you either, so I don't know who told you.
Yeah, girl, where you
Maybe
come
I
from?
saw it on TikTok, but like on an anniversary of something that was traumatic in your life, not necessarily like pain traumatic, but like emotional traumatic.
Yeah.
Like you can still feel that.
I wonder why you thought of
pain.
this.
Yeah.
Sorry. Not a good joke.
Anyway.
Yeah. Even if like your
Oh, that
mind
makes
is
sense.
trying to forget it,
Yeah.
your body can not.
I mean, but I think that's like the reaction to trauma is like the reason you have like PTSD or certain things like that is like because your brain's like, oh, we've encountered this before. We gotta back up. Like it's trying to protect you from that. Like I believe that. Or even just like memories. I feel like that's why we have triggers and stuff. Is like,
Speaking
right,
of
tell
that,
us.
So my therapist told me this past time, with all this like weight loss medication and all this stuff, it has triggered me in that. And I'm like, God, it's so annoying that it triggers me. Like, to me, I'm like, I don't want triggers. Like,
I hate the word trigger.
Right, it's been so normalized once again.
And she was like, okay, well, let's like, kind of rethink that. So, the reason you're getting triggered is because your body is wanting to heal. And so when you hear like people are either taking the easy way out, or like in with like weight loss and stuff like that, or just abusing things, just any type of trigger, it's because your body wants to heal. And so it's actually like, if you change it to where it's a really cool thing, it's like, I'm healing, or I want to heal, and it makes you mad that you're seeing this, or somebody's saying something that's triggering you, or whatever. It's frustrating you because you're healing.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking like, oh, I can do that too. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And she had asked me like, oh, well, have you wanted to get on that medicine too? Like, have you thought about that? And I was like, absolutely not. I have no
That's
need
growth
to
right there.
at all.
Yeah.
She was like, that's amazing. I was like,
Yeah.
I guess so.
And that's why it would trigger you, is because
that's
you've
why.
recognized that growth.
Right. And so that's just in anybody that gets triggered. It's because your body or your mind wants to heal.
Well, and your body and mind also remember the pain that those things specifically had caused you. One time, maybe it was my therapist, or maybe I saw it on TikTok. But basically, anxiety, your brain doesn't understand language. I might have told you this before.
I feel like this sounds familiar.
Yeah. So your brain doesn't understand language. So when you're like, don't be anxious, like your brain does not obviously understand that. Your brain understands actions. So if you're like, say, for example, going to a party or something, or you're scheduled to go to a party where there's going to be a lot of people, and you're like working yourself up about it, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so anxious about going to this party, and I really don't want to go. There's going to be so many people there, and it's just going to be super overwhelming. I'm just so anxious about it. Your body understands the way that you're feeling and takes that as anxiety, and makes your heart race, and makes your stomach hurt, and makes you have these like really anxious thoughts. So the next time a party is mentioned, you start having those like anxiety filled thoughts again, right? Well, because your brain doesn't understand action, and it only or your brain doesn't understand language, it only understands action. The way for your brain to not understand that anymore as truth, being the anxiety, is to go to the party. Go to the party and show your brain that there's nothing to be worried about.
Yeah.
And go and have a conversation for your brain to not like think like, oh, every party is bad. Every party is going to be terrible. Or, and that's just an example. It could be about anything. It could be driving even,
You have to form those new pathways in your brain.
Right. Because your brain doesn't understand. I mean, and that's kind of like where manifestation comes from too. Because if you're like, oh, well, I'm going to manifest that everything is going to be okay. Like you're telling yourself, everything's fine. It's fine. Your brain doesn't understand the language, but you being chill in that moment, your brain understands that. Or if I'm going to the party and showing everything's fine. I mean, I'm having a great conversation.
Yeah.
Then my brain is turned off to that, like, I need to be freaked out about this.
Yeah.
And that is where it comes to, it is a mindset, not in a negative way, because that can
be thrown so many different ways.
I know. And in that is that, like, you have to train your mind as well. It's not like, oh, I deal with anxiety, I deal with depression. Oh, that's a mindset. Just
get out of it, girl.
Yourself out of it.
Maybe it's even a matter of like, okay, you need the serotonin to get you out.
Right.
Get
and
you
then,
out of
then
that.
your mind will
You're stronger.
help.
Yeah. And then you can form these new pathways. You can form these new habits.
I could still be depressed and be on antidepressants. Like I was depressed on certain antidepressants, but like through the work that I've done in therapy, like I know I could easily fall back into that, but it's like I have to journal and I have to go to therapy and I have
You're
to
strengthening your mind.
And I think, you know how you said being around all of us, we've all made different decisions and we're all okay.
Yeah.
I think it helps you in your mental health journey that you can see, like, we have all gone through every version of a traumatic event.
Very true.
Right?
Yeah.
And we're all okay. And not saying, like, people who go through traumatic events don't need to be on anything.
Right.
But saying, like, it's all gonna be okay. Also, like, we all in here live very privileged lives. So, like, there's some people that
we all have access to the medicine and
Right.
therapy and things like that.
And there's people in the world that don't have access to that, and they don't have the privilege of, you know, going to a therapist, or they don't have, you know, things like that. So I totally get it, and I'm loving and sympathetic towards everyone that struggles. But being an adult, I'm like, okay, well, you know what? I have 2 children. For me, I don't have, my babies depend on me more than I need to worry, or more than I need to, you know, whatever. And I'm so thankful that I have access to a doctor that was willing to prescribe me something. And I'm so thankful that I've been able to walk that path now, because, you know, it's incredible what it's done for my mental health. Even just being anxiety or ADHD medicine. Like, that's crazy to me. But, I mean, hopefully I don't have to worry about that. But being a mom, it's hard. It's really hard.
I think when I started when I started getting on medicine and stuff, I had a lot of open conversations with my dad. He was like, when I was your age, like, there was a very big stigma around medicine and around, like, going to hospitals or therapy. Like, if you went to therapy, it was like something was wrong with you. Like, back in the 80s and 90s and stuff.
Especially with being in a more southern state, Bible Belt, and all that stuff.
And, like, that kind of, like, parade away mentality. But, like, I'm so proud of, like, the progress that we've made since then, that, like, while my dad experienced, like, that he had, like, there was stigma around it. Now, just one generation later, I tell people all the time, I'm like, oh yeah, my therapist said, my this, that, and the other, oh, I forgot to take my medicine. Like, I feel open to have conversations, and maybe because I'm, like, a very open person, like, I'm an open book, but...
Do you feel like, hypothetically say that you hadn't, you know, basically ran back to the Lord when you did, like, do you feel like your journey wouldn't have been as a happy-ish ending now? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If, you know, because some people are like, oh, well, God isn't the reason why I'm here. You know, some people are like, oh, well, it's my meds and my therapist.
Yeah.
Do you feel like your relationship with the Lord plays as big of a part in, I mean, obviously, I feel like that's a redundant question.
Well, no, but it is the biggest part, because my darkest place in life, I had been in therapy for 6 months. It was on my second medicine at that point. And I don't even, like, I thank the Lord every day for the deliverance, because I shouldn't be alive. Like, I shouldn't. And he knew he had a plan for me, bigger than I could have ever imagined. And I didn't even run back to him. Like, you know, like, one of my favorite stories is the prodigal son, where he comes back to his father after making all these mistakes. But I can't even say that I ran back to God. He came and found me. The week that I was seriously thinking about taking my life, that weekend there was a church event. And I have notes from that event, and all I have written on it is, thank you, Lord, for not letting me take my life. And I keep that in my Bible as a reminder of the deliverance that he saved me from. So I should not be alive right now. And, like, so he planted that seed in January. I wasn't, like, fully healed to happiness until, like, April. But I started new medicine, and I started, you know, like, just because of that little seed of hope. That was, like, the push that I needed to have the motivation to, like, want to heal and want to get better. Because I was at this point where I was like, well, I've been in this for almost a year. It feels like it's never going to get better. And I was so ready to give up. So ready. And, like, I can't even, like, imagine. But, like, I wasn't even trying to, like, get saved from that or, like, run into God. Like, I was the furthest I had ever been. But he planted that seed. He gave me that hope, and that pushed me forward to the mission trip in March. And that is really where I experienced him again. And that gave me more hope that I could keep going, and that I had to make it to summer. And that gave me more hope. And then by summer, like, I was 360, completely transformed.
Well, I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
And the path that you took might not have been the conventional one, but I'm so thankful that God led you to us.
Oh my gosh,
and I'm so
me
thankful
too.
that I have you in my life.
Thanks.
But anyway,
Ditto.
Thanks for listening. Hello.
Hey!
You can come in. Yeah. No, we're gonna wrap it up. Anyway,
That wasn't as scary as we thought it was going to be.
no, that's fine.
Which I meant to give like a at the beginning and be like, don't be turned off because this is serious because we have a way of making light of it.
Yeah.
And I think we did a good
Because
job.
we have come out.
We're on the other side!
Welcome. Welcome. I could be a voice actor. Okay, well,
Anyway.
have a good day, night.
Love you so much.
week.
Thanks for listening.
Be kind. And as always, see you. Bye.
A good burp.